Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to The Sacred Life. Once again, I am your host, David Baylor, welcoming you all here again. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, you can see in the title, what we're really going to be talking about. I've titled it Orthodox Revival, Music, Dance, and American Tradition. Is sort of some, I guess you could say, some pet projects and some personal interest of mine, and my brother John shares in these interests as well. And just some kind of ideas looking forward into the future of the Orthodox Church, and especially as we have things, like the recent statement from Metropolitan Saba of the Antiochian Archdiocese. Um, you know, I remember a statement from him, something along the lines of, the time of the ethnic Orthodox. I'm paraphrasing. Time of the ethnic Orthodox was kind of in the past, and now we're in this time of evangelism and of this rising time of American Orthodoxy. And there's a number of things that kind of implies. And I think a lot of times people are really fixated on like the liturgical aspect, especially of an American Orthodoxy. If we're talking about American Orthodoxy, we're talking about what kind of music we're going to be using in the liturgies. Trying to come up with authentic American styles of music in the liturgies, and that's part of it. And we'll talk a little bit about that probably this evening. But what I really want to talk about goes even further than that, beyond just beyond the liturgies, beyond the liturgical music, the kind of music that we sing in church and so on, but towards what it means to have an Orthodox culture in America. And that relates to me as being somebody who's involved in many ways in traditional American culture. I have a lot of connections. With traditional folk culture, whether it be Appalachian music through bluegrass and Appalachian folk styles of music. Also the Sacred Harp singing tradition, I'm closely connected with that as well. And of course, my own Mennonite background, having something of a folk tradition of its own. And, being somebody who's closely connected, I guess you could say, with what remains of an American culture, but also in a position looking at those things, it's what kind of a future is there for these things? And so kind of the thesis that I'm presenting tonight, the idea that I'm presenting tonight is that I believe it's the place of the church, it's the place of the Orthodox Church to kind of position itself as the steward of culture. And any true culture really has to be rooted in the church and in the life of the church. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at that again in more detail as we go on. Before I get into that, I just want to remind everybody again of our sponsor, Gregorius Iconography. You can check out the link in the description for Gregorius Iconography. Would appreciate it if you'd go there and purchase some icons. You can order some hand-painted icons or icon prints. You see some samples on the screen of some of the work from Gregorius Iconography. And in case you were wondering who this Gregorius Iconography is, well, it's me. I am Gregorius Iconography. The name comes from my own patron saint, Saint Gregory Palamas. So I'd appreciate it if you'd consider supporting us by going to Gregorius Iconography, purchasing some hand-painted icons, ordering some custom commissions. That is my day job. That's my full-time job, is working as an iconographer and also doing apprenticeship work for another iconographer. So I'm, continuing to learn and master the craft in the proper way, and also doing this with the blessing of my priest. So I'm not just like some kind of rogue guy doing whatever he wants to do. So I'd appreciate it. I'd appreciate that. Also, consider becoming a channel member. If you're not a channel member, you can see links for that also in the description. I don't know where all the links for everything, how that whole thing works, but you can. You guys are smart. You can figure that out. And of course, super chats. Drop your super chats, super thanks during our live streams. That helps a lot as well. And we appreciate all of you who are tuning in, all of you who have subscribed, all of you who comment on our videos. please be sure to like this video and drop comments both in the live chat, and if you're not watching this live, drop a comment in the video. That really helps the algorithm. The more interaction there is with the video, the more engagement there is with the video, that signals to the algorithm that this is something that it should put out to more people. And so, yeah, wait, I do see there's a good question here in the comments, and I will get to that later. So stick around. I do want to address the topic of this video first. And then that's definitely a good question you have there. So I'll be sure to get to that. So please stick around for that. But yeah, so the topic of this video, as I said in the introduction, is looking at traditional culture, especially traditional American culture. And as somebody, like I said, who is who's rooted in that through my upbringing, through family connections, growing up around kind of that folk culture scene in a lot of ways, and being connected, of course, to my own Mennonite culture. That's like a group that has a sense of culture and community in the ways a lot of mainstream Americans don't. I mentioned being connected with things like bluegrass and Appalachian folk music, the Sacred Harp tradition as well. Being connected with those things, but then also like looking at the situation in America where we see like a continual fragmentation of American culture, and there's not really being a vibrant and living folk culture in America in the way that you might see in a lot of traditional Orthodox countries. And I know it's not as simple and cut and dry as that for Orthodox countries either, especially the post-communist countries. But one thing that's been very remarkable to me about Orthodox churches, you go to these ethnic churches. I think about the Greek church, the Antiochian church, the Serbian church, these various ethnic churches in central Indiana. They all have their ethnic festivals where they have their traditional culture, their traditional foods, traditional music, traditional dancing, and all of those things. And that's very good. It's good that they do that. Pay homage to their founders, to their ancestors, and all of those things. I'm a supporter of that and a proponent of that. But then my own parish is a unique parish. Just kind of like a real quick rundown of what my parish is. My parish actually originated as an evangelical Orthodox parish. And that's I think we'd like to do a video. Maybe I'll talk to some people and put out just a little bit of that story. It's a fascinating story, one I've become connected with through my own parish. But since it is not an Orthodox parish from a cradle Orthodox background, and like almost everybody in our parish is either from the evangelical Orthodox background, from the evangelical Orthodox Church, that movement from like the 70s and 80s, and either that or more recent converts. And there's just a handful of cradle Orthodox in my parish. That really means that our parish has a distinctly American identity. And I think about that a lot. And I hear this, I'm connected. Obviously, I'm very closely connected with people at St. George Antiochian Church in the Indianapolis area as well. And a number of these other parishes in central Indiana that might have an ethnic background, but at this point are like 70-80% converts, Americans. And so there's this big question among a lot of the people that I know is like, well, what are we going to be in the future? Are we going to continue to be, are you going to continue to have your Greek or your Arab Christian identity or whatever it might be, or like what does it mean? Again, that's kind of the question behind this stream tonight, is what does it mean to have an American Orthodoxy? And kind of what I'm presenting is that does mean more than just American styles of music in the liturgy. But I think like what I would really like to advocate for, and also like avail myself to doing this, is see us positioning like traditional American music and dance and folk culture in the same kind of way that we do with the ethnic cultures of the various communities. And so like where you have Greek music or Arab music or Russian or Serbian or whatever it might be, try to also do that with American styles of music. We sort of did that at our own parish festival a couple weekends ago. Just kind of, something I wanted to do and something I think the local people were very, very happy to see. And one of the reasons, like there's two reasons I would like to see this happen. I do have the title of this video, Orthodox Revival. And, there's kind of a double meaning in that, which is that there is this kind of revival going on in American spirituality. Like I do see that as a lot of what's going on in the convert surge into Orthodoxy. Is this is a true spiritual revival, people returning to Christ and returning to his church. But then also when I'm talking about Orthodox revival, I'm talking about the Orthodox Church, because of the way the Orthodox Church works, because of the values of the Orthodox Church, because of the traditions of the Orthodox Church, is also uniquely positioned to be a force behind the revival of what you might call traditional American culture. And now traditional American culture, that can't mean like forensically reviving something that existed in the past, because any true traditional culture is something that's vibrant and alive, continuing to grow and to shape and to move and to change and all of that. But yeah, so I guess part of what I'm advocating for in that, and this is kind of my vision, and I would like to do this again, like I said, avail myself to this, is include, like, work towards including American folk culture in your church's festivals. And is there a place for us, in addition to having the ethnic festivals of the ethnic cultures that are the foundings of our various Orthodox communities, is there also a place for us having ethnic cultures, but the ethnicity is traditional American culture, to where now you're like you could say we're baptizing the culture of our converts into the Orthodox Church, and then the Orthodox Church becomes the custodian, you might say, of those things. And that's what the Orthodox Church historically has been in all of the countries that it is in. And we'll have a video going more into detail on some of these ideas, but just how, in order for there to actually be any traditional sense of culture and identity, it has to be connected to the church. And that's one of the reasons why I say the Orthodox Church is uniquely positioned to do that. So yeah, so then this first part, that's what I'm calling for. And like, I'm seriously interested in actually doing this. Like, hopefully I can put out this video and some people will hear this and think, hey, that's a neat idea. I'd love to do something like that. And if that's true, or if somebody, you can share this with your priest, with your parish councils, or people in your communities. And if you're excited about this, like, please get a hold of us here at the Sacred Life, and we'll actually come and do it for you. We'll help you do this. And we'd love to get some people on board with this idea and kind of flesh out what this really means in the long run. Like, how do we sort of resurrect, or give this last shot of life to this dying American traditional culture that's in so many ways been destroyed by modernism, by commercialism, and all of those things. And then the other thing, like I said as well, I do want to talk a little bit about if we're going to have an emerging American kind of music, we do have traditional American musical forms. And I'm fascinated to see, like, the monastery in West Virginia that is trying to work with that traditional Appalachian culture and create this, this sort of Appalachian Orthodox style of music. And that'd be something that I'd be really interested to see over the next 20, 30, 50 years or so, how that unfolds. And then I'm interested to see as well that, they're starting to tap into the sacred harp tradition as well. And that's something, like I mentioned earlier, I'm connected with that tradition, with the Sacred Harp tradition. And I know there's a number of Orthodox people in the South actually that are. And that's something, I'd advocate for that as well. But there's one thing in particular from that tradition that I think would be a tremendous benefit to the current demographics of the Orthodox Church, which is this singing school tradition, which is, the Sacred Harp tradition. If you're not familiar with it, kind of the history of it is actually those books were written to be they were books written to be used in singing schools and singing instructions, and the whole tradition is really built around teaching people how to read music and to sing. And so that's another thing, me and John have talked about that as well, and that's another thing we're kind of throwing out there in this stream is um we need some things like that. I was speaking with a local, well, a fairly local, as a Central Indiana priest the other week about that, and he was mentioning, he'd love to see something like singing instruction, musical instruction for all these converts, because so many people coming from the broader American culture have no clue how to sing. They've never really sung properly in their lives. They don't know how to read music. They don't understand how music is shaped and works and any of those things, and people would really benefit from something like that, and that's something I'd be really interested in pursuing that personally. I think me and my brother John both would be. I know we both would, because we've talked about this, is like, you know can we do something like that? Can we put on singing schools? Can we offer this as a service to the Orthodox Church? Like, people need to learn how to sing, and we come from a tradition and from a culture, both, not only that Sacred Harp culture, but also our Mennonite background is one where, from very small children we learned how to read music and to sing. um, and there's things there that we can take that, um, that's a service that, it seems to me, from my own observation, that's something that the Orthodox Church is in need of. And so those are both things I think are very firmly connected to this sort of revival of American culture, because America, did used to have a very vibrant musical folk culture, a very vibrant dance culture, a very vibrant singing culture. And if if we're going to have, I guess my claim is if we're going to have a return to that in any kind of way, the place for that to happen is in the Orthodox Church. And I'm not only throwing out propositions to people like, here's things that I'd like to see happen, but I'm also saying, hey, I'm a guy, I can actually offer these things to the church. I'm a guy who can actually I'm the guy who can actually do it, in part. And I'd love to, I don't know, I'd love to have some feedback. I'd love to generate some interest in these things and pursue those opportunities. Like, I'm really enthusiastic about this. Um, because that is such a major part of my own life. And then coming into the church and seeing, hey, there's actually a place for this here. And I think it's something that would really only help the mission of the church in the long run, is if we start tapping into these things, if we start really embracing these things. And so, yeah, that's kind of the basic rundown of what I wanted to present to you all here this evening. Once again, remind everybody, do leave your thoughts, your questions. I'm going to go ahead and pop John his comment that he left in the live chat. But any of the others, anybody else who's watching this who has any thoughts, any ideas, leave your responses, your questions, your challenges, whatever it might be, in the live chat here. Let's get the conversation going. Definitely leave your comments if you're not watching this live. But John says, this is John from the Sacred Life, my brother John, who's often with us here on the Sacred Life, especially when we do our pre-recorded videos. Sometimes drops in actually in the live stream. I don't know. I could even say, John, if you want to, you could even hop on the stream here tonight. If you want to, just leave a comment in the live chat. I can't see it if you want to text me on the phone. But anyway, John's comment here, he says, the guys in my band had a dream of putting on an American music festival and calling it the Beard and Plaid Festival. That would be a good angle for an Orthodox festival too. Um, yeah, yeah, I think I can just let that stand kind of for itself. Um, and I'm advocating kind of along with that, presenting this to Orthodox parishes that this is something. I don't know. I would just love to see Orthodox parishes embracing this idea. We do have traditional music festivals all over the place, and they draw in huge crowds. And they're like, is this something that the church can kind of lay its hands on, that the church can embrace somehow? And um, the church embracing of traditional culture and kind of, I don't know. I think because connecting with it is like one concern that I have is that traditional American culture, because it has become divorced from any real community and any real like religious grounding, it's going to have a tendency to drive towards, I guess, to put it in Orthodox terminology, to drive towards the pleasures. Looks like John is coming in, so I'm going to add him to the stage. There you are, John.
Hey, there I am. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to take your comment off the screen since you're actually here. So.
Oh yeah, it was sort of a joke. I mean, just the idea of the Beard and Plaid Festival, which I always thought was a funny name
Yeah.
for a festival, but also with the Orthodox, we could get a lot of bearded people interested in that.
Yeah, no, I think we would have to get Deacon Seraphim Richard Rowland as our as like our mascot.
Man, he'd be great. I should have put some plaid on for this. I just got out of the shower. I just got dressed just so I could be on camera for you.
Yeah, you really dressed up for us.
Yeah. Well, it's late. I'm gonna go to bed and sleep in this before too long.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, you were in the middle of a thought, but I don't know if you remember what it was. If you don't remember, then I'd be happy to go on with a comment here.
You go ahead and go on. I kind of forget what I was saying.
Okay. Yeah, I figured you probably would because of all the funny things I was saying.
Yeah, you pretty much you're a real clown.
But I think it's probably not that much of a stretch to say that there's never been a culture in the history of the world that sings and dances less than what we do in America today.
Yeah. But not long. I mean, that's like a super modern phenomenon.
Yeah. Right.
Like I don't know, like probably like within the last 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and like it does extend into churches now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would say like a lot of, we'll say the musical culture that was local to our area has mostly died off. I mean, you can find musicians around, and you can find musicians that are doing traditional music, but there's no such thing. There hasn't been such thing as a folk tradition around here for a long time.
Yeah, right. It's like we found out, like as adults, basically, that the house that we grew up in, back in the day, was actually a house where they had like community dances, and there's like I guess a national renowned fiddle player. Like folk fiddle player was like, I don't know if it's like the Alan Lomax recorded him or something like that.
Well, he's in like Smithsonian recordings. Yeah. So similar. I don't think it was Alan Lomax, but similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But it's like from Greentown, the town where John works.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's a folk, like a folk music, but it's like it's related if you go back far enough to the Appalachian tradition, but it's a separate tradition. It's like a Scotch-Irish musical tradition. And it just like, it no longer exists. There's nobody in our area that knows anything about that. It only preserved in recordings.
Yeah, well, even the idea that people used to dance in mom and dad's living room.
Yeah.
And it's a great big room. The house goes way back, like probably to the 1870s or maybe before. So it's a house with a lot of years on it. But the idea of somebody hosting a dance, and like your friends are playing in the band and dancing, throughout the evening. That's what you're going to do when you get together with your friends. Like, I mean, that's a totally foreign idea to Americans living now. But like I say, that's been dead for a long time. But now Now, in my view, you basically don't even have people singing in church. You don't have people singing
Right.
together, anyways. You have musicians that perform, and you do have some people that will kind of sing along to it. But there's no concept of people singing together.
Yeah, and so that's something I was I was presenting. This is something, it's good to have you you come into the chat to talk about this specifically, about this, like the singing school thing, about
Hmm.
like, this is a concern that I've heard from a number of people, and like I mentioned, heard it from a priest. I mean, it's a priest that you know as well. So that pretty much narrows it down to like two people.
Yeah.
But um but just one thing that's true of this mass wave of converts is that most of them don't know how to sing.
Yeah. Right.
And so a lot of them are there in the liturgy and they don't actually know how to participate. And a lot of them want to,
Yeah.
but like they don't really know anything about singing because they never grew up. Excuse me, they never grew up. Even if they're from a Christian background, they never grew up singing in church. They just grew up consuming the, I guess, the entertainment that was called worship. And
Hmm.
and like in the Orthodox Church, it's like, this is not what you ought to be doing. Like, you're not supposed to just be standing there and consuming the liturgy. You're supposed to
Yeah.
be
Right.
participating in it. And so this is something I know a number of priests are interested in. Like, how do we get our parishioners to to participate? And I say, and I think this other priest has the same idea, is that like, you give them the gift of singing.
Yeah.
Once you give them that, it's a very simple thing to give them, but it seems so inaccessible to Americans for some strange reason.
Yeah. Right.
Because like we've been conditioned with this really terrible notion that singing is something that belongs to the professionals,
Hmm.
and the rest of us aren't qualified to do it. It's like, no, singing is a gift that God gave to all humans. Some are better at it than others, sure, but
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's hard to be a really really good singer, but it's
mhm,
not hard to sing. And when it comes to reading music, um, it's hard to be a really really good sight reader,
right,
but it's actually not hard to read music.
yeah.
To be like sort of okay at it. And if you're sort of okay at it, and there's other people in the room that are singing with you, then like as a group, you'll get it.
Yeah, and so like I was presenting this idea, kind of, you probably heard that, like a real brief rundown of the fact that the Sacred Harp music tradition really
Yeah,
starts
yeah,
as a singing school tradition, and of course we have our own Mennonite tradition where we grew up like being taught. Like, I don't really remember ever learning how to read music formally.
yeah, right.
It's just something that, because we did it every week and because we did it at home as well.
Hmm.
Um, I remember, like, we'd periodically go through the rudiments and, like, here's what all these shapes, because we use shape notes.
Hmm.
Here's what they all correspond with, and all those things, which is like, something that'd be a good thing to bring out, is, sort of, how am I saying this? Sort of, um, using this idea as shape note as a way of helping people understanding how music works, so that it doesn't, I don't know, to me it seems like if you understand music in terms of shapes, then it's I don't know, easier to like, I don't know, like, it's less scary. I'm gonna pop this up. We have a new member, Atlee. I know Atlee. He is um he's actually a former Amish guy who's becoming Orthodox. He lives in Indiana.
Yeah,
Um, he's a good guy. He's part of our X-Men crew.
yeah, yeah. X-Men Night Crew.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, well, I haven't met, but appreciate you, Atlee. Thanks for the support.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
want we shouldn't talk too much about Shape Note because we don't have a presentation, to really like show people what it's all about.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, but I don't know. I guess my yeah, like, the goal in this stream is really just to put some ideas out into the wild, and then sort of talk about these things, because Um, I don't know. I just thought it'd be a good thing to talk about. We did record a video where we sort of went over some of these concepts,
Hmm.
but I just kind of wanted to make something more dedicated to these exact propositions.
Yeah,
When we're
yeah.
talking about things
Right.
like
I don't mind making a plug for it. I
yeah,
mean, basically, just for those who don't know, when you're reading sheet music, you're still reading the notes that are written on the staff, like normal
right,
sheet music would be. But the shapes are telling you do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And so,
hmm
in addition to having like the absolute pitch that's on the sheet, like this is an F. And every time you see this note is an F in the absolute pitch. You also have this relative pitch where your do
yeah,
will switch around. So you have you have two different ways of reading music at the same time,
yeah,
which is really really helpful.
yeah. And like my contention is that shape note is a superior way of learning how music works, because like it does have this strong visual cue, and I'm all for visual cues.
Yeah,
The more you represent concepts, the easier it is to grasp them.
yeah.
And so
And Mennonites have used shape notes for quite some time,
yeah,
and
I mean, I think Mennonites were involved with the development of the seven shape systems that are used today. Actually,
yeah, yeah, right. Which would be not the original shape notes,
right?
um, but when I went to audition for my choir in college, which I just sang in 1 year, and Dad asked me if I told them, or maybe he advised me to tell them that I grew up in a Mennonite church. And I say that some of the listeners will be very familiar with the Mennonite musical tradition, and some won't be. But my dad said basically a choir teacher will know what that means. Um, Somebody who knows music, if they hear Mennonite, then they will know, oh, you come from a musical background.
Yeah,
And this group of people that's really known for good, great congregational singing uses this shape note system. So, like it's a way where where basically like everybody in the congregation can do some level of reading music.
yeah, right. Yeah,
And everybody means like you don't have to be a music major. I mean, you can be a kid, or you can be an old grandma, or like whoever you are. Like, you can sit there and you can kind of sing parts.
right. Yeah, yeah, and so what we're advocating for, and this is something, I mean, I guess it's fair to say publicly that you and I would like to, I don't know, avail ourselves to doing this. Like, if people are interested, um, I don't know, kind of my sales pitch or my position, I don't know what quite the right way to frame it is that if your interest is in teaching lay people how to sing, you probably don't want to be going at it from like an academic musical perspective, if you know what I mean. And it's especially like, um, like a classically trained musician's a way of approaching music, because that's not really beneficial for people who are singing congregational music. And that's kind of the advantage of something like the Mennonite tradition or the Sacred Harp tradition, is it is specifically designed to teach people how to sing, and only to teach people how to sing. Like, they don't need to learn how to compose music. They don't need to learn how to understand complicated musical theory that might go into playing an instrument or playing in an orchestra, or any of those things. They don't need to understand chord theory. They don't need to understand any of those things. They just need to understand the basic rudiments of how music works, um, and how to read music, or how to be able to find their part if they're singing in church without music. And it's really not that difficult. That's kind of, I don't know, kind of our point, is that like these things actually aren't that difficult, and it's just kind of this weird idea that modern Americans have come up with, the idea to believe that this is somehow something that's hard to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, we kind of made the point last time we were talking about music, which I guess that hasn't been aired yet, but that in a traditional culture, the expectation is that you'll sing. Like no matter who you are, you'll be able to share your singing with the
Yeah.
rest of us.
Yeah, right. And it's like, yeah, that's definitely like stay tuned for that video. I think I'm gonna put that up as our members only video this Wednesday. So that means it'll go public next week.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
And it's also, I mean, it's really good. I mean, like to sing,
yeah,
and to sing
yeah,
with other people. And I say it's really good. I mean, like good for the body, good for the community.
yeah.
Um, and when I say like, I don't know that there's ever been a culture that does less singing and less dancing than what we do in contemporary America. I mean, to me, like I view this as a serious problem. And we got like everybody's complaining about, oh, we're living this period of great political division. What are we going to do? How are we going to bring people together? Well, all the things that people used to do to bind cultures and communities together, we have thrown out the window.
Yeah.
And singing is not the only one of those things, but singing together is a big one. And I mean, it's actually sort of, there might even be something absurd to think that you could unite people politically, if you're not going to sing and dance together. Like, I mean,
Yeah, right.
because it's such a powerful tool, for love and for community.
Right. Yeah, that's something that, people often associate with, like these hippy dippy artsy fartsy people. It's like, oh, music binds people, and but like they're actually right.
Yeah, right.
But
Um,
yeah,
well, it's like, if you are, um, if you are working together with somebody to create something beautiful, you could say that covers a multitude of sins. You know, like
yeah.
whatever type of divisions you may have with somebody, um, if you can create something wonderful together, like you can overlook those divisions when they need to be overlooked. You can
Mhm.
forgive, and like you can set your eyes on something higher than the thing that's dividing you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and so just kind of, I don't know, to recap what we're driving at here is just um we're saying people need to learn how to sing, and we're saying if you agree, get a hold of us and we'll come and teach people how to sing. No, but that's serious. Like that's something I think me and John would both really love to do. That's something we've talked about in private. I don't know, pretty extensively, really. Um, and we'd love to have the opportunity to do that, and that's kind of part of the reason for making this stream is basically to present two things that I think me and John both would love to do. So there's this, like we'd love to go around and do something like singing schools, singing instructions for local communities, and I'm offering it in the context here of the Orthodox Church because I think the Orthodox Church is particularly receptive to this idea right now. Orthodox parishes really recognize the need for this. I see like a lot of, I already said this, so I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit, but that's a lot of desire from a lot of leaders in Orthodox parishes of like, I want my people to be able to participate in the liturgy, and we're offering this kind of as a service to aid in that. Um, you know, of course, we need to adjust things specifically to the Orthodox context. And then the other thing, and John, I don't know if you want to jump in on this other subject, the first subject I was going over as well, which is the traditional music and dance. And along with that, Atlee actually did have a good
Yeah,
point.
I've had my eye on that. I was gonna, when you stopped talking, I was gonna request that you put this up on
Yeah,
the screen here. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. That kind of relates to what we were saying about our own local tradition really no longer exists. It stopped existing, I don't know, 100 years ago, maybe
hmm
not quite that long, but um, it was definitely on its way out 100 years ago, um, and just doesn't exist at all anymore. And so that's definitely true. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I would say anywhere in the country where there is a folk culture among rural people, at least, it's basically Appalachian culture has taken over, um,
hmm
to a large degree. Anyway, I know that's not universally true, and I know especially so like Cajun culture is definitely a thing that exists. Um, I think there's also like a northeast culture, a New England musical culture that still exists as well. Um, And I know like there's still an Ozarks culture, still a Texas culture, and all of those things. But me and John, what we have to offer is the culture that we're actually connected to and a part of, and that's relevant to us locally.
Yeah,
Um,
although it has a lot of Southern roots as well. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of the Indiana tradition is Kentucky people and
right,
some
right.
Tennessee people um,
Mhm,
that moved up to this area and brought their culture with them. But on this question, has American culture not always been localized when it was real? There's a part of me that would say, well, culture is local, and yes, if it's real, because I look at culture as being very much participating with your neighbors,
mhm,
which is a local thing. Um, the professional music has also basically always been around.
yeah,
And the idea that you would have somebody, for example, from one city who composes something and then other people in some distant city hear it or they imitate the same thing. You've got a traveling musician that moves around, and other people in your local community would learn his songs. Um, like this has always existed as well. So there's always a connection between the high culture and the low culture.
yeah,
And the high culture, the guy that's the traveling musician, like he's drawing from local traditions as he goes too. So it's not that the professional is inventing things and then local people are picking up on it, but there's like a two-way relationship. So
mhm,
you always would have professional musicians. You would have like traveling musicians, or you'd have your big orchestras, or the guys composing for the king and all those things.
right,
Um, and there's a sense in which that's real, but there's a sense in which like the life of the culture comes from families that sing together and churches that sing together, and local communities that gather together and sing. So in a sense, I would say like it's culture when you have that, and when you don't have that, then there's a sense where it's not really culture anymore.
mhm,
If it's just the music that you listen to on the radio, then you're not a part of a culture anymore.
yeah, right. Um, and I think the big thing that we're stressing in terms of traditional culture or folk culture is really the participatory nature of that.
Hmm.
Um, we don't need to really recap our whole entire conversation that we have in that video either. Um, so I mean, I think there is a degree to which it does, it does vary depending on where you're at in the country. I think the kind of music that you and I know how to do is relevant to where we live, and would really be relevant to a pretty large part of the country in today's day and age,
Yeah.
because like that sort of Southern and Appalachian style culture has spread so far and wide and kind of dominated folk culture throughout much of the country,
Hmm.
which is fine. Like that happens. That's part of the historical process of folk culture. Like um, so much of what we think of, for example, as like South American and Hispanic music is actually like Austrian and German music,
Yeah.
for example, um, or like heavily influenced by Austrian and German music. Um, so that's just like a real brief example. So yeah, like that's something like I don't know. I think I can volunteer. Like me and John will come and play music for your Orthodox festivals, and we might bring our family or other musicians with us, depending on the exact details. But I don't know. I feel pretty safe in giving that offer. Um, are you okay with that, John?
Oh, I am. Yeah. The only thing is, if you volunteer me for too many things, then I'm gonna have to quit my job again.
Okay. I mean, I hmm. He may or may not be okay with that chat.
Yeah. Right. Um, no, I did quit my job once in the past, so I could do nothing but play music,
Mhm.
um, and it went well for me. And it's like one of the things in my life that I'm most happiest that I did was quit my job, which is the same job I'm at right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, and it's like I enjoy playing music, and I think I would enjoy performing a lot more if I was doing it in service of the church. and of like a real sense of community. It's like I like music festivals. Like our we have like a family band, and I'm not currently in the family band just 'cause I'm too busy with other things to do that. And it's like I enjoy going to the festivals, but at the same time, there's something to me that feels kind of artificial about music festivals.
Yeah, music festivals are for music people rather than
Right.
being for people.
Yeah, right. And it's just like that's something that's fun to me about the idea of like an Orthodox Church party. Is like, no, this is actually traditional culture. This is how this is the context in which traditional music existed in the past, and that's the context that traditional music no longer has, and that's why they have to have music festivals.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But what that kind of means is if you're having music festivals, that kind of changes the shape of the music, turns it
Mhm.
into more of a performative art.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, the traditional artist is always pointing at something other than himself and other than his art.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so those are both. I don't know. Those are two big things. I personally wanted to advocate for tonight, but also like I wanted to do this stream because these ideas connect very firmly with what the broader vision of the sacred life actually is. We didn't create this YouTube channel, this podcast, with the sole intention of having a YouTube channel and a podcast, but rather like this is something we thought, we need to lay the foundation for all of these other things that we want to do. And that includes the things that we're talking about here tonight. Also things like our animation project, which by the way, I just ordered a bunch of animation supplies this afternoon.
Oh
So,
yeah, good.
so that means like we're actually getting started when those things get here. Like we'll actually be getting started on the real pen to paper work for our animation projects. So yeah, definitely. I don't know. I just throw out a pitch um, for that right now. Like that's a major part of the vision of the sacred life is really getting into the art and culture side of things. Music, storytelling. Um,
Yeah, before any of you guys listening ever heard of our channel, um, David and I would have these conversations about like what are some of the goals that we want to try to bring together here. And sometimes you would refer to it as an academy, and sometimes
yeah,
you would refer to it as a monastery. But with the idea that like a monastery could be a center for arts, could be for
yeah,
production of text, production of artwork.
hmm
And with the academy, it's the same thing. Not that we had an interest in being the analytical academics or anything, but that we were interested in a type of learning that leads to producing things.
yeah, right. Yeah, and then also being interested in actually producing things.
Yeah, right.
So like having you know sorry, I got something in my eye. If you see me like opening my eyes and blinking a lot, um, having having the capacity to do that and to actually be able to present it to people. Like we mentioned this before, how me and John both have our own like fictional story projects that we've been working on. Like I don't know, probably since we were teenagers. And then I was mentioning the animation project, and I do want to say with that, like, if you guys are excited about that, definitely that gives you a good reason, a good motivation to actually support the sacred life. Of course, I already mentioned at the beginning. I'll go ahead and pop that all up again just to run through it again. Check out the iconography, Gregorius iconography. The link's in the description. That's me. That's my iconography business. That's the best way to support the sacred life is through the purchase of icons. I kind of approach that as I am the sponsor of the sacred life. And so if you want to support us, that's the best way to do that. But then we also have a Patreon. The Patreon is actually geared mostly towards supporting the animation project. And at least that's how it's set up right now. And I'll probably leave it that way. But like I said, I did order some supplies, and I'm going to be starting the actual work and drawing the animations and producing the various scenes and everything in the next couple weeks. So I'll be able to have some updates. But Maybe that gives you a good excuse to support us. Would definitely appreciate it if you'd support that project. I'm going to be putting a lot of hours into that. Um, and I think a few other people will be joining into the project as it goes along as well. So we definitely do need your support for that. But yeah, those are just all just pointing towards like what is the broader goal of the Sacred Life. It is projects like that, and this YouTube channel and this podcast serves that. Um, but it's just part of it's part of the broader, I guess you could say, the broader vision of what we're doing here.
Okay, I'll ask a question. Why traditional art? When you talk about this, like these other ethnic Orthodox traditions work to preserve their traditional ethnic cultures. They have their Greek festival or their Middle Eastern festival or whatever it may be. You could look at that and say, like, well, this is sort of an accident that this gets attached to the church and the life of the church. I mean, I don't know what you would propose as an alternative if you're going to have, some sort of music at festivals. Like, do you just want to be playing like a bunch of pop music or like classic rock or something like that? Or, I mean, you can come up with different arguments for why, well, no, that's not quite what you would want to do. Although you could say like, well, why not just play the, contemporary Christian music or like the soft rock,
Right.
the stuff that isn't glorifying vices from beginning to end in every song.
Yeah.
But again, the question was why traditional music?
Because traditional music is real. Like traditional music is shaped by the story of the people over the course of its history, and so it is kind of the expression of the people themselves. Whereas anything else is idiosyncratic to the people that are making it. It's yeah. I think that's like the quickest summary I can provide. A nice concise summary of my view of it. Anyway, there's probably more to it than that.
Okay, I mean, no, that's a pretty sharp answer. A little different than the sort of arguments that I was anticipating you making. But like you say, it's if it comes from the professional musician, then it represents the idiosyncrasies of that professional musician,
right? Or like that group of individuals.
Yeah, right.
It's like the Beatles are producing something that's very distinctly theirs, and the Rolling Stones are producing something that's very distinctly theirs, and Taylor Swift is producing something that's very distinctly the product of a massive corporate music industry.
Yeah.
But it's still idiosyncratic to Taylor Swift at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and I think I bring in that example just to also bring like there's a distinct profit motive in non-traditional music.
Yeah.
And that like it is designed for mass appeal, mass consumption, sort of like appealing to the lowest common denominator. Whereas I don't know, like traditional folk music serves a completely different function.
Yeah. I don't know. I was probably thinking about this today just because of what you were going to be talking about. But I was having this thought that if you like reject the tradition that's been handed down to you, and you embrace like popular culture instead, you will say, then you're embracing something that was created to get your money.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of interesting to consider what you are actually serving when you're rebelling against the tradition.
Yeah, and I would say also, like, coming at it from like an Orthodox spiritual perspective too, is that modern popular music is designed to serve the passions. It's designed to appeal to the passions, and it's designed to appeal to the emotions and all of those things. Whereas any traditional folk culture is designed to draw people towards something higher than themselves. that thing higher than themselves in the context of a lot of folk cultures might not necessarily be the highest thing, but it's still something that's higher than themselves. So, like, I'm thinking, like, for example, of like the Greek theater, for example, is like
Hmm.
necessarily drawing people to God, but it kind of is. And this
Yeah.
is what church fathers approach the Greek plays and the Greek philosophers and say, like, the Holy Spirit was actually at work there. Uh,
Hmm.
but like, I think it's much harder to say that about things that are designed to get your money, because the best way to get your money is to appeal to your most base instincts, your
Yeah.
most base passions and desires. And I don't know. So that's the main difference, that as I see it.
Yeah. Right. Um,
Um, I don't want to go too much longer here.
okay.
Um, I think I've accomplished for the most part the goals. There's so much more we can say here. Bobby Mahler here, he did have a comment I promised I would respond to a long time
Yeah.
ago. But first, I want to address his comment that was it's not clicking on it, but it's not showing.
Is it too big?
Yeah, it probably is. Oh, there it comes. I was just having a lag for some reason. He says, I remember being a little boy and growing up Baptist in the Southwest. We used to have a huge emphasis on singing. I remember my brother and I dancing to church hymns and Christian country music. Yeah, and I think he's just kind of acknowledging what we were saying about how rapidly American culture has changed away from having any real musical identity, musical culture. And but then the comment, this doesn't really
Yeah,
relate.
to me, before you move on, like there's something beautiful in that um, modern, very contemporary kids growing up won't have.
Yeah, right.
I mean, remember dancing with my brother to church hymns. I mean, like there's something very special in that,
Hmm.
which comes through the participation. That's why this
Yeah.
is such a different thing than like sitting and listening to the really finely tuned worship band.
Hmm. All right, and then his other comment, and this doesn't relate to the topic, but I did promise I would respond to it at the end here. He asked, this is the same guy, Bobby Mahler. He says, "How long do you think it will take for Orthodoxy to be in a similar position as Catholicism in the United States? Maybe a century or so. What do you think we can do in that regard?" So two things I would suggest is, first, if you haven't already, go and listen to the video that Father which one was it? Father Andrew Stephen Damick put out on his channel, um, with he's talking to a couple other guys there about the actual statistics and data of the Orthodox convert surge. And I think they had something like a projection of, I'm trying to remember if I got my numbers right. I probably have these wrong. But my recollection was they were projecting, I think it was like 4 million Orthodox Christians by uh, was it 2040 as a conservative estimate, which is still way, way, way smaller than the Roman Catholic population in the United States. So it'll take a long time, even by the most optimistic numbers, or Orthodoxy. We're still hovering like just under 1% of the population. So it's going to take a long time of tremendous explosive growth for us to get into the tens of millions, like somebody like the Roman Catholics would have. I don't even know what their exact numbers are, but I'm sure it's something that's way in the distant future. So I don't even want to speculate on that. Um, And as far as what do you think we can do in that regard, and that's the other video that I would recommend you go and reading, and maybe you have, or go and watching, maybe you have already, is the recent statement from Metropolitan Saba, the Metropolitan of the Antiochian Archdiocese. It's a very good video for Orthodox Christians, talking about like the current state of things and what it really means for Orthodox Christians now. So yeah, I don't know. That'd be my recommendation: is go and watch those two videos. Um, Listen to people who are far more experts on those than either of us are. But then for whatever it is worth throwing in my own opinions is, I mean, I don't know, I would be a very big advocate, and I think this goes along with what Metropolitan Saba was saying, is participate in the work that the Holy Spirit is doing. Because like one thing I've consistently heard from Orthodox Christians is we're seeing this massive convert surge, and we didn't do anything to make it happen. It was all the Holy Spirit's doing. It was all God's doing. Um, but we need to be faithful with what God has given us, and participate in the work that the Holy Spirit is doing. And so I think it's proper for us to look at the current situation and say, obviously, the Holy Spirit is doing something, and um, we need to be faithful. I often use the parable of the talents. It comes up in my own thinking a lot. But I think it's applicable here with, God has entrusted something to the church, to the Orthodox Church in America, and we need to be faithful with that. And I think what we're talking about tonight actually plays a big, huge role in that, which is embrace America, embrace American culture, embrace what it means to be American. Um, and I think the more Orthodoxy in America actually embraces American culture, the more we escape this label that some want to put on us as, oh, we're foreign and we want everybody to become Greeks or Russians. It's like, no, like and if you can prove that by they go to the Orthodox Church and hear like hillbilly bluegrass music, it's like, oh, this is definitely not Greek or Russian. I don't know, that's one thing I would say. But then also, just do what you can. Um, Encourage people to come and see the beauty of the church, but also like do as much as you can to make your churches and your liturgies as beautiful as you can. I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
As I was looking up while you were rambling on about who knows what, and
I don't even know what I was saying. I just
there's maybe about 60 million Catholics in the United
okay.
States. So
Yeah, that's about what I would have guessed.
yeah,
I have
that's
seen the
different people
statistics
saying a
before,
few
but
different things. So I
yeah.
mean, 40 is still a good ways away from 60, but it's actually kind of in the same ballpark.
Well, no, so not 40. Are you going by the numbers that I was citing
I
earlier?
thought you said 40 million.
No, I said 4 million.
Oh, 4 million. Okay, well
Yeah,
that's a little ways then.
yeah, that's a long ways away.
Um, and by like the singular institutions, like one governing body, Catholics at their 60 million are the largest religious group in the United States.
Yeah, right.
Which seems a little counterintuitive because they seem like such a minority. I think though, in spite of like numbers, from my perspective, Orthodox people seem to have like a very outsized influence at the current moment, anyways. Not that they have in the past, but in the last few years, it just seems like people are really want to listen to what is the Orthodox perspective on this or that or that,
Yeah,
in a way that they're not as interested in the Catholic perspective. Although I think Catholics probably are getting a little more respect now than they did, a few years back too.
right.
But I think there's this huge curiosity and this huge, not just curiosity, but willingness to be influenced by Orthodoxy.
Yeah. Um, I guess that's all I have to say. Hopefully that's a satisfactory answer. That's the best answer I feel like I'm qualified to give, especially to go and look at what our hierarchs in our Orthodox churches have actually said regarding those things. That'd be the best, definitely the best place to go to look if you are an Orthodox Christian. I don't know, John, if you had anything else you wanted to say. I'm about
Um,
to close up.
just yeah, I mean, there are a couple little tiny things in reference to that first comment that you put up from Bobby Mahler about the. I remember my brother and I dancing to church hymns and Christian country music, and I made the comment about like this is a more precious experience than what churches are giving young people right now. You know, I mean, there's something in me that says like this would be a really nice gift to be able to offer to people. Um, and um, in in my my time playing music, performing in nursing homes, I've played thousands of shows in nursing homes, and um, I can go into a nursing home and I can sing music that that those people have memories from, that are connected to their own childhood, that are connected to their parents and their grandparents, and experiences that they had early in life. Um, and I have this sense that like um, nobody will be able to do that for my generation.
Hmm.
And you know, again, like the people that are growing up right now, when they're old, um, when they're in nursing homes or whatever, like there will be nobody that will be able to play them songs that their dad sang. Um, and again, this seems like uh, because I know the like the healing power that music has on the people that I've played it for. This just seems like such a tragic loss. Again, to say that
Hmm.
like the current generation and the future generations, nobody will be able to give them that same gift.
Yeah, it's like I'd be fascinated. I mean, and I hesitate to say fascination because if it's a fascination, it's kind of a sick fascination. But to see like what the impact mentally and spiritually, like going into old age on these generations is going to be, people who grew up not hearing their dads and their mothers singing songs to them,
Hmm. Yeah.
that just grew up raised by media. Like, I mean, I would feel like it's going to have a profound impact on what happens, like even physically to their brains as they start to grow older.
Well, I'll tell you just one thing, and this comes a little bit more from research than from my observations. Um, but say an elderly person that's separated from the life that they were a part of when they were younger, and has limited connection with family and all that, um, they will um, they will struggle with feeling like life has a purpose, and like struggle with feeling that I have an identity, in a sense like your identity, who you are, is that's like part of your purpose in life. Those are kind of the same thing. Who
Mhm.
I am and why I'm here. Um, and if you can connect a person to who they were in their younger life, then like what you do is you provide a connection to a consistent identity that they've had that runs through time. And um, and if it runs through time, that also means like it has a trajectory. It started someplace and then it progressed somewhere else and then it progressed somewhere else, like it's moving somewhere. So my life still feels like it has a direction to it. Um, and this means that like playing familiar music to somebody, sort of takes a life that feels meaningless and makes it feel meaningful again. And so you're saying this sick fascination of like, what will the current generations have? Well, the current generations will have, I can listen to the media mass produced music that I listened to when I was a kid, and that will connect me to my persistent identity as um, like just somebody who consumes mass media entertainment. And like that's my identity that's consistent and stable across time. And it doesn't connect with my parents, and my grandparents. It doesn't connect with the people that I knew and loved. It was my own isolated experience. So like the best that I can hope for when I'm elderly is being connected to my isolated existence, which doesn't provide like meaning and direction. It doesn't really provide identity.
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know. Kind of my thought with that is like you said something about. I can't remember exactly what you said, but like these things people have been deprived of, or these things people haven't had, and it's like I kind of feel like these are things that have been taken away from them. This is
Yeah.
part of the spiritual destruction of of America and of people. Um, I think I don't know. I think this is we could keep going on and on about this for a
Yeah,
while.
I do have to tell one other story though. Just this is something
Ooh,
Dad told me recently. There's a guy, I won't name him. It's somebody I've met, but I barely know. But I know a lot of people in his family. And this guy came back to visit Howard Miami Mennonite Church long ago. But this was a significant memory for Dad. And he sat through the church service, and they were doing all this trendy music. And he told my dad afterward, I wish that we had sung some of the songs that my dad used to sing when I was a kid.
yeah,
Um, when I came back to this church, I wanted to be connected with that tradition. It would have meant a lot to me if we could have sung some of those songs, and I could have felt like I mean, I'm putting more words in his mouth. I'm just trying to like expand the idea a little bit, but it would have meant something to me if I could have used this music to connect to my dad.
right.
Like I didn't get that opportunity, and that was a big disappointment to me.
Yeah, and instead you
Um,
go there and you feel like, what is this imposter that has taken the place of this community that I grew up in?
yeah, right, right. Yeah, it's hard for young people to realize, and it's something like Americans are taught to not realize it, but tradition is a gift.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'm good to wrap up. Um, we've gone a good time here. Um, just to remind everybody again, make sure to. I mean, you're out of time to drop your comments in the live chat, but drop your comments in the comment section of this video if you're interested in the things that we were talking about here tonight. If you'd like to follow up with us on some of these things, yeah, get a hold of us this way. And yeah, we definitely like to hear what you think about these things. Get the ball rolling on some of these things and see what we can do with these things in the future. And hopefully you enjoy what we're doing here at the Sacred Life. Um, and the sort of content that we're going to be branching into more and more in the future, stuff like the philosophical content that I'm doing some of on these live streams. um, and then also I'm going to be diving into some, like I mentioned yesterday, doing like some analysis of things like the Elder Scrolls video game series, things like the Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Some things connected with popular media that I kind of like, but also there's some good stuff going on, kind of symbolically in those as well. I might also do some occasional response videos to both Protestant, to Protestant, Catholic, and also other Orthodox stuff from time to time. So if there's anything in terms of that you'd like to see us, address in a short video, you can leave that in the comments as well. Those are just try to have some variety, give our audience things that they enjoy. I didn't put up the schedule earlier. I do have a weekly schedule, so I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen now. Obviously, this is Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we have our going public, our previous members only video, and then we will put up another members only video tomorrow as well. And like I said, I think that's going to be the one that relates to the topic of this sub. Sorry, the topic of this video. I'm starting to get tired. You can probably tell the topic of this video here tonight. Then Thursday, me and Zach, we're going to be talking about adult and infant baptism. And then Friday, I'm going to be doing some deep dives into symbolism, and especially looking at the importance of symbolism. And in particular, I'm going to be looking at what St. Dionysius the Areopagite has to say about that. I had read his work some time ago, and recently with some of the scholarship, people are talking about St. Dionysius again, and it inspired me to read his writings. And every time I pick it up, it's like, dang, this stuff is really good. Um, it's pretty exciting to me whenever the authenticity of those texts can be verified. Um, yeah, they're just as far as symbolism goes, they're just I don't know, they're just like miles above what anybody else has to say. And it's unfortunate that it seems like the best work that he wrote about symbolism is also the one that is lost to us today. And we only know about it through mentions in his other writings or the writings of others talking about them. But we don't have the text itself. But I don't know, it's fantastic. And especially with just I'm really excited to get into especially contributing to this ongoing my ongoing defense of icons and the proper place and use and even the necessity of icons when in diving into kind of the necessity of symbols in human understanding and cognition. um, Sort of recapping some of the arguments I made in a previous video, but also continuing to build on that ground as I continue to build out this kind of philosophical defense of the Seventh Ecumenical Council. So that I guess you could say Friday's video is the second part in my series defending the Second Council of Nicaea. So that's the schedule I have for the week coming up. Again, appreciate all of you who are channel members, and anybody else who wants to join. We appreciate that. We're continuing to put out members only content. Um, we appreciate all your super chats. We appreciate your likes, your comments, all those things. All of you who have subscribed. If you're not subscribed and you're watching this video, then definitely do so. Help us continue to grow. We appreciate it, especially if you share our videos. Help more people to discover our channel. We would, we've with your help, we got past 1,000 subscribers. It's kind of slowed down in the last couple days. But I think that's just because I don't know. Maybe the last couple of videos I put out weren't as interesting, so I'll take credit for that. But we do want to. It'd be great if we can get to 2,000 and on to 5,000 and continue to grow. Who knows how long? But you guys can definitely help us by sharing our content, liking our videos, commenting on our videos. That really helps the algorithm. So do all of that. So that's my little pitch that I have to include. That's all I've got. John, you got anything else to say?
No, I have no pitches.
Okay. Do you even know how to pitch? You were a pretty bad pitcher, weren't you?
No, my coach wouldn't let me pitch, and then I pitched one game and I did fine, but the pitcher after me lost the lead. We actually won the game, but I got a no decision on my one game that I pitched.
Yeah, that's kind of a tragedy. I mean, our brother Phil, he was a pretty good pitcher, but
yeah.
And then one of our close childhood friends became a professional pitcher. So
yeah.
So we the moral of the story is we know a lot about pitching. Anyway, that's all we've got for tonight. So yeah, thanks again everybody for joining us, and until next time, once again, wish you all peace in Christ.